Hi, Dale. Is your camera on?
There we go.
Okay, we will call this regular council meeting to order for December the 11th. It's 3 p.m. And who has a land acknowledgement today? Is it missing? I have it. Okay, Councillor Messaros, would you like to read that? Thanks.
The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived on and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd also like to welcome Councillors Dunham and Heistad who are online with us today. And we'll move into 2.1. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Could I please have someone make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make that
Councillor Messaros?
motion. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Councillor Messaros, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll move into 4.1, or the minutes, I should say, 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for November the 27th. And when somebody's ready, I'll please have someone make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented. Councillor Bates?
Sure, I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thanks. Any changes, discussion? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. Then we'll move into 3.2, the agenda and priorities meeting minutes for December the 4th. When someone's ready, have somebody please make a motion. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd so move.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, carried. Now we'll move into 4.1 with our CAO report with CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. It's really there for your reference. If there's any questions on the report or anything else regarding operations administration, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Anybody have any questions for CEO Becker? Pretty straightforward. Okay, could I please have someone make a motion to approve the CEO report?
Yes, Mayor Barkley, I would make the motion to approve the CAO report.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll move into our council action control, item 4.2.
Mayor Barkley, just on the one item, broadband capacity, it'd be maybe something you'd consider is to, through a resolution, to have you invite a TELUS representative to come before you in regards to this action item. We've had administrative conversation with them in general detail. I'm not getting a lot of information. I think if we have somebody before you that take questions directly, I think it'd probably be a little bit advantageous to understand what infrastructure we have within our community.
Okay, great. So have somebody please make a motion that we direct administration to invite a TELUS representative to come before council. Councillor Wing?
Yes, Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about that? Councillor Heistad, did you have a question or?
No questions. I just jumped the gun on the vote.
All in favor? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, and then anything else on the council action control anybody has questions about? If not, we'll please have a motion to accept it as information. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I'll move that we accept the action control as information.
Okay, perfect. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move into Section 5 now with Director Vickers, 5.1, and a request for a decision on budget 2024.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley.
So this report is to present the 2024 operating and capital budgets for Council's final approval. Council held 2024 budget deliberations on November 21st and 22nd in Council chambers. These sessions were advertised to the public, was available to attend in person, and a recording for each session is still available for viewing online. The deliberations began with a review of the town's vision, mission, values, and the 4 pillars of the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan. Administration used the following budget objectives when developing the 2024 budget and presented to Council during those deliberations. To advance Council's strategic priorities, specifically ensuring housing diversity, meeting recreational needs, adding an economic development officer to town staff, sustainable asset management, and growing the energy hub. In addition, also to provide high-quality municipal services valued by the residents, to maintain competitive property taxes, and to protect the organizational health. So the 2024 final budget is broken down as follows. So the operating revenues and operating expenses are the same number at $27,780,667. That leaves us with a contingency of 0. That is as per our new budget policy. We have a capital budget of $9,728,000 with a 2024 projected reserve end balance of $12,093,353. The 2024 estimated tax assessments for the town have projected a total assessment of just over $1.2 billion. It is a total increase of 3.726%. 4.73% of that is a residential increase. 0.769 is non-residential. A 2.8% tax increase is being incorporated into the 2024 budget. A property with a tax assessment around $320,000 should see a tax increase of approximately $7.51 per month. Of the 2024 tax increase, 2% of that is being earmarked for building debt capacity within our budget for a future debt payment of the new aquatic center. Over the next 4 years, we will build enough capacity in our budget for a $910,900 loan payment. And you can see each year the slow increase to that transfer to reserve that stay maintained within the budget. Now, should the overall final assessment be different than from what is projected in the 2024 budget, a few options will be available to Council. The mill rate may be adjusted so that the net effect on property owners is the same as outlined in the 2024 budget. We could also add some projects back in that have been cut during budget deliberations, or some combination of the above mentioned options. Administration will bring the final 2024 mill rates to Council for approval in early 2024. The provincial government is expected to pass its budget in the spring, at which time the education requisitions are known. At that time, Council will set the mill rates based on actual assessments received by our assessors, and then combined tax and assessment notices must be mailed out by the end of April in 2024. The Fortis and ATCO franchise fees are to remain the same for 2024. Franchise fees are payments made by utility companies for rights to utility distribution services within the municipality. Utility companies then raise funds to cover the cost of those fees by charging their customers within that municipality. Funds collected through franchise fees help fund municipal operating budgets. So the budget is incorporating the following rate changes in utility user fees as follows. So we are looking to move water up to $3.01. That is an increase of 15 cents per cubic meter. Wastewater we want to move to $4. That's an increase of 20 cents per cubic meter. And the wastewater flat charge up to $12, which is an increase of $2 to the flat charge. A monthly utility bill will see an increase of approximately $5.50. Now that is based on 10 cubes of water consumption. All the other flat charges for water, storm, and garbage will stay the same for 2024. So the 2024 budget has incorporated a cost of living increase of 3.5% for staff, and upon completion of a performance review, a level of merit increase may be obtainable. Some of the increases to the operational expenses for 2024 are increased RCMP operational costs in the tune of just over $252,000, new staffing costs in $80,000. We do see an increased transfers to reserve, $1.587 million. Increased energy costs at $45,000. Increased property insurance of $20,000. We do have a transfer to the capital budget of $1.5 million. This is specifically linked to a capital project that is on the capital side. as well as we do see debt payments for the Southwest Industrial Land of $742,333 in this budget. We will receive the MSI operating grant to help cover the cost of the historical village, $23,000, and the PACE bus program at $42,000. The 2024 capital budget was reviewed during budget deliberations, and the final list is attached to this report. The total capital budget is $9,728,000. Capital projects are funded primarily by provincial and federal grants, debenture, and reserves. The funding allocation for 2024 is broken down as follows. So you can see that's where all of our funding is coming for capital projects. So the main provincial grant program for municipalities is the Municipal Sustainability Initiative, or MSI, which is going to be replaced by the Local Government Fiscal Framework, or LGFF, in the 24-25 fiscal year. The province has committed to initial overall LGFF funding amount of $722 million. This represents a 37% drop in funding compared to the 10-year historical average of MSI. Over half of the $722 million will be split between Edmonton and Calgary, leaving just $340 million to be split among the approximately 330 other municipalities in the province. As municipalities are responsible for building and maintaining most of Alberta's infrastructure, this will force some difficult decisions in terms of prioritizing capital construction and maintenance projects. The detailed breakdown of grant dollars for LGFF are still unknown at this time, but is set to be released before the end of 2023. The 2024 reserves show budgeted additions from the operating budget of $1,850,847 and a withdrawal of $2,560,095 for capital projects. This will leave a balance of $12,093,353. A press release has been developed and will be released after the budget has passed for public viewing. Communication will also be distributed to all residents and distributed in the Town Voice as well as the utility insert. I'll take any questions, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Messaros.
Thank you. I'd like to move that council approves the 2024 operating and capital budgets as presented.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I just have a question of semantics mostly. The way the report is written, we usually have a separate number for the operating and the capital that together add up to the, and it looks like we're calling operating expense as the whole thing. And I realize that usually you see an operating budget and a capital budget.
Yep.
And the operating budget would be in the order of magnitude of 18 million? Is
So Mayor Barkley through Councillor Bates, so $27,780,000 is our total operating budget, and $9,728,000 is our capital budget. So the total is actually closer to the 36 million. I just don't have them totaled together.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. As I look at that, though, then the operating revenues, because some of them contribute to the capital, there's just something that's not,
Yeah, so the operating revenues just have to balance out the operating expenses. Some revenues may be moved to the capital budget for funding, but the capital budget is still a separate budget compared to those two.
I don't know. Not seeing it yet. Because the operating revenues, some of that would be used in the capital.
So most of those operating revenues are not, like none of our capital grant funding is included in those operating revenue numbers. The only type of funding that would go towards a capital budget is if we purposely transferred money from the capital or from the operating budget to the capital budget, which is only that $1.5 million portion. Does that make sense? The revenue that we've identified here is still just operating revenue. It's not classified as capital revenue until at such time we move it to the capital budget.
But then the operating expenses, are equal here to the,
Yep.
so if you transferred any of the operating revenues to the capital, they wouldn't, yeah, they're equal here. They're, just remember in the past, and I don't have the numbers, that when you added the capital budget to the operating budget, you ended up with the total budget. So you're saying the total is up to, yeah, that just seems like a quantum leap from where it used to be. I somehow remember the entire budget was in that order of magnitude of just somewhat under that 27. And yeah, it's just what I remember. It seems to have gotten way bigger.
So there is a very large project for the building of those Hazelwood or the new houses that is in the operating budget.
It's bigger than that. I need to go back and look at my old stuff because it's just, it struck me that, and then, like I said, I was having the confusion of the operating revenues equaling. I don't question any of the detail of the budget that we did. It's somehow the semantics of how we're looking at the whole thing. I'm not hung up on it. I'll go back and look at it. Thank you.
Councillor Messaros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to Director Vickers. Thank you for noting that the 37% drop in funding compared to the 10-year historical average. And because it hasn't been allocated yet, I know you can't answer this question, but I'm wondering if maybe you could think about bringing the answer back when it does. I would just be curious to know how that kind of gets attributed to the cities as compared to rural, and how much of a drop they're facing compared to how much of a drop we're facing.
Yes. Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Messaros, definitely as soon as that gets released by the province, we do have every intention of bringing that to in front of you guys to help explain what's going on with that. So
Thank you.
Councillor Heistad?
Thanks, Your Worship. Similar to Councillor Messaros' comment on the LGFF, transition from MSI, once we know those numbers, I think it would be great for us to communicate with the public, but as well as I think we could combine that with our opportunity to talk, like the address to the public about our budget and how it works. And I think we did talk about that in the last couple of weeks of how we address the community. And I think if we know where those numbers are at, then we utilize that in our potential presentation. So that's what I was thinking. And I think this is a great budget. There's a lot of hard work that went into it, and I'm going to approve it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Barkley. I just wanted to echo my support for the work. Certainly, I feel the community will need to understand and need to know and will want to know that building reserves currently, which include how we address our recreation facility deficits as we move forward, is, I think, a really strategic move for council and for administration. And also, over the time that we deliberated on this budget, the solutions came from administration, which is appropriate, and I really appreciated that. So thanks for all your hard work on this, and I'll be supporting the budget.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Oh, okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve the 2024 budget. All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Director Vickers, for many months of work. And we'll move into 5.2 on the policing agreement with Director Vickers.
yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So this is to have council authorize the chief elected official to sign the policing support grant funding agreement. So Alberta Public Safety and Emergency Services has continued its support for police services throughout the province. To facilitate this, the province has approved grant funding for the 23-24 fiscal year. In 2022, the Municipal Policing Assistance Grant, or MPAG, and the Police Officer Grant, POG, were amalgamated into one form of police grant called the Policing Support Grant, or the PSG. This was completed in order to simplify the administrative and financial processes attached to policing grants for both the ministry and the town of Innisfil. The attached agreement is effective April 1st, 2023, and expires March 31st, 2024, and must be signed by the chief elected official and will be returned no later than December 12th, 2023. The approved purpose of the PSG funds is to both offset the cost of officers, as well as to ensure the delivery of policing oversight, the implementation of policing initiatives and priorities, and the ability to support enhanced policing services in the town. So the town of Innisfil is eligible for a grant in the amount of $362,776. This amount has not changed since last year and is the amount that was accounted for in our 2023 annual budget. So we have not yet received these funds. We are still waiting on them before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you. I so move that council authorizes the chief elected official to sign the policing support grant funding agreement.
Okay, any questions about the agreement? Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. And then we will move on to 5.3 with Director Vickers and council remuneration policy.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we are back again for the second time to bring the council remuneration policy discussion before council. So the 2023 Council Remuneration Committee consisted of 5 members of the public: Barb Dixon, Arno Glover, Bill Hoppins, Ron King, and Ted Parks. The committee met on 2 separate occasions, September 19th and October 17th, to arrive at the recommendations. So the recommendations of the committee were included in the draft policy as follows. So include the monthly honorarium to cover 2 agenda and priorities meetings, introduce a flat rate of $35 per hour for per diems, clarify the specific council activities that fall under the monthly honorarium or per diem categories, as well as add up the provision that says any COLA increase applied to council remuneration shall not be higher than increases given to town employees. The rationale of the recommendation was not to increase the rates at this time, but to streamline the policy rates to be in line with the activities listed under either the honorarium or per diem. The committee also recommended that council discuss applying COLA to these new rates at budget time to achieve an increase to their remuneration. At the November 14th regular meeting of council, the draft policy was reviewed but not approved, pending council's request to have further discussion around potentially providing per diems for travel time and the impact absences from council meetings, vacation, illnesses, etc. may have on payment of monthly honorariums. The policy has since been updated to include council's annual individual professional development budget of $2,000, which now will increase based on the passing of the policy that we have now. That was $6,000 for council, or $6,000 for the mayor and $4,000 for each of the council members for this year. So travel time discussion. So travel time may be defined as the time it takes for travel from Innisfil to an out-of-town location for an approved council activity using the most efficient route. So some council activities requiring out-of-town travel could be the Central Alberta Economic Partnership, that's in Red Deer, Central Alberta Regional Waste Management Commission in Red Deer County, and so on. There's a list of all the different activities. So we do have some options for travel time. So number 1, the travel time is included in the base honorarium, so there would be no additional fees for travel time. The hourly per diem may be paid based on the total time of the meeting and travel. For example, if there's a meeting in Red Deer lasting 4 hours and the travel time is 60 minutes round trip, the compensation would be based on 5 hours. Travel time for the day before a meeting conference and or the day after. So if the travel required is 5 hours one way, the compensation for travel could be based on 5 hours. And the travel time could be applied at the $35 per hour rate or could be applied at a different rate altogether. Absences from council meetings, vacations, illnesses, etc., and the impact on monthly honorariums. So after researching existing council remuneration policies of other municipalities, very few references to council absences, vacation, or sick time were found. The following excerpts from policies of towns and cities in Alberta and other provinces are the various examples dealing with absences and monthly base pay honorariums. So one example states that absences from meetings listed in 6.1b without providing a reasonable excuse for the absence shall result in the monthly remuneration payment being reduced by the per meeting absence rate listed in Schedule A attached. So approving authority, so Mayor, Chief Administrative Officer, may deduct the per meeting absent rate for meeting absences that do not appear reasonable under the circumstances. Unexcused absences meeting is $200, so that's that deduction for that municipality. So the next one is council members will be allowed 1 month sick leave without loss of monthly honorarium if a councillor is away for 3 consecutive weeks or more, other than sick leave. They will lose 100% of 1 month's honorarium, whether it falls in 1 month or 2. Mayor and councillors must notify council and the CAO if they will be absent from their duties for more than 2 weeks. Another one is if the mayor, deputy mayor, or councillor is away for a consecutive period of 21 days or more, the monthly honorarium will be prorated based on the number of days absent over the corresponding period. Example, absent 21 consecutive days in a single calendar month, 21 divided by 30 is 70%. Therefore, the monthly honorarium would be 30% of the regular monthly honorarium. If the consecutive days of absence occurred over a 2-month period, then the honorarium would be prorated over the 2-month period. For example, 21 over 60 is 35%. The next example is no councillor shall be entitled to be paid remuneration in any one period if he or she attends less than half of the regularly scheduled meetings held during that period, unless he or she has been granted a leave of absence with pay by council. And then just a subnote, in the event of a leave of absence being approved for a councillor by council, a councillor will be entitled to a prorated share of remuneration for the applicable quarter. And the last example is should a member of council miss more than 3 regularly scheduled council meetings or 3 regularly scheduled standing committee meetings per calendar year, $200 will be deducted from that council member's monthly remuneration for each additional meeting missed unless the absence is authorized by a resolution of council. So I don't know if you want to stop there and kind of discuss some of those options and whether you'd like. The CAO does have some comments on the report. I'm not sure if you'd like to share or you want me to go through that or if you've read it and understand.
I can add in, Council, just to add in a little bit of context from my perspective. I believe that there is some justification for the travel. It is your time. There's a commitment to add in travel as part of your engagements. You kind of think of the geographical area that you're in. It's kind of in that Red Deer to Edmonton corridor. Also, you might venture off to Drumheller or Canmore, you know, in a jurisdiction. Ultimately, that's a majority of your travel area, besides that of FCM convention. The expense would not be significant, although we didn't calculate what that could be. I believe that the policy references in regarding to council absenteeism feels complicated to me, and it's certainly up to you how you wish to apply and how much level of detail your policy wishes to read. However, from my perspective, it's if you're missing a council meeting, you're still ultimately a councillor. If you're missing an engagement or a committee meeting of some sort in the community, you're still taking on that responsibility as a councillor. Again, it's up to you on how robust your policy should be. It still requires interpretation of you. It still requires conversation. Still requires a management. Policy is meant to be as solid as it can to create consistency, but there is still policy is to be interpreted and managed. And it's different because there's 7 of you working within a policy, and in the administrative side, it's different because the context of a policy ultimately approved by council or the CAO, it comes to my attention if it's a guideline, how do we interpret it? That'd be my responsibility to confirm interpretation of the policy. So really up to you, council, not to interfere with your deliberation, but that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you, CEO Becker. Okay, so I'm just going to open it up for questions to begin with, and we'll get to the motion after. So, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just a question through to Director Vickers. I don't see anything in here, or maybe I missed it, about the approved absences, such as, and I'm going to use the example of the Christmas tree lighting. We were all there. Were we expected to be there? Morally, we should be there as part of the community. But now, would we claim, we were there, some of us, let's say 2 hours, would we claim $35 for that? I don't see anything in there that, it's pretty gray, right? You know, travel time, I fully agree with. The rates, I think they're quite reasonable in comparison with the other municipalities within the area. But it's just, who makes the determination of what activities we should be attending and how do we charge? Was there some thought given to that? Yeah,
Absolutely. So Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Harrison. So within the policy, under the base honorarium, there is a listing of what is included in the base honorarium. So 2 regular council meetings per month, 2 agenda and priority meetings per month, public hearings that are part of any regular council meetings, the annual organizational meeting, preparation time for meetings, meeting or correspondence with a member of public, meeting with administrative staff. So public or special events where attendance is not in an official capacity is likely where something like that could fall under. Travel time to any council activities, duties of Commissioner of Oaths, and staff functions. Then it goes on to per diems where it does the same listing, right? So these are where it would be in addition to that $35 an hour now. So boards and committee meetings, meetings of authorities, boards, commissions, committees that the member or alternate has been appointed that do not remunerate, any special council meetings, budget deliberations, public hearings scheduled outside of regular council meetings, meetings with community partners, conferences and conventions, education sessions, seminars, the public or special events only where an attendance is in the official capacity of mayor or deputy mayor to bring greetings on behalf of the town. So that is where it would be the per diem. So is someone making a speech, doing welcome greetings in front of a group of people? I think that's the intent, that that's where you get paid. And if you're attending just to attend because you want to be there, then likely that's going to be part of your base honorarium. That's how this policy is kind of worded.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Heistad.
Thanks, Your Worship. Director Vickers had mentioned $4,000 for training, and then comment. I got a couple questions, and comment on yours is 6,000, and I understood it was just 2,000 for us as councillors. So maybe I missed something there. That's my question for Director Vickers.
Yes.
For my first question.
Yep, Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Heistad. So this year, due to AUMA being in Red Deer and FCM being local, there's extra cost in the budget. So we, instead of cutting those costs for this year, we transition those into the council spending budgets. So you can choose to go to FCM, you can choose to go to any type of other conference that you see fit. If there is some sort of training or education that you wanted to go some type of course, you can use those funds. Next year, when we reevaluate the cost of where those are, we'll come back to you what those numbers would look like next year. So this year, it's just more because of the less cost for some of those other conferences, so.
Well, I think to Councillor Heistad, just to clarify as well, we determined to leave Alberta Munis
Yes.
in, so
Yes.
everybody's covered to go
Yeah.
with that, and everything else is optional. So if somebody wants to go to FCM, by all means go. You can use your
Yes.
budget. If you don't want to go, that's okay, as opposed to saying 2 people per year are going to go.
Yes. But we did
So-
save the hotel cost for AUMA
Yes.
this year, or AB Muni, sorry.
Right, because Alberta Munis is all in for council.
Correct,
Right?
yes, it
It's
is
always
in.
there, but everything else is out now.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then my next question would be is, if somebody's sick more than 1 month, we, as a council, we can decide whether or not the remuneration is still in play for them, correct? Is that what I understood from the policy when you were reading it out?
So what I was reading out were just excerpts from other policies, and most
Yeah.
of them, they basically had an out. If it was in a resolution of council, then no deduction would ever be made, basically, right? So if council as a whole approved any type of leave, then it wouldn't be any reduction. But it can
No,
still be
and I-
designed, that absenteeism can be designed however this council would prefer as well.
So if passed, the next time that we look at this as a council would be probably the next election, right? Not
That-
for a couple of years?
Yeah, 2 years,
Correct?
that's correct, yeah.
2 years. I guess as a sitting councillor right now, my recommendation, and this is just my food for thought as a group, is it would be really good for that standing committee to sit. I think it'd be beneficial if there's an opportunity for the new council and that new committee to sit together. It may help with some synergy and understanding of the roles, as well as building on what we have today. And the reason why I say that is when I asked a question to Mr. Hoppins a few weeks ago about where we stood or where we sat as a community, we're about 50 percentile, comparing us to other groups, other communities. And I look at I see this as a win-win for now, but I think that in the future for future councils, I really think that we could build on a bit of a framework, and it's similar to what we're doing with our own staff at the town, where we're trying to be one of the best employers in Central Alberta, and I think we should be if that's an opportunity for us in the future. And that's all I'm going to say for now. So thanks. Appreciate it.
Councillor Bates.
So reflecting back on the last time we talked, where I was coming from with some suggestion that we potentially consider a deduction for absences, the transition from where we are today to where this is recommending is that you would automatically get paid now for the A&P meetings, whether you attend them or not. We already get automatically paid, I guess, for council meetings, whether we attend them or not. And those 4 meetings to me are probably the most important thing that you do, other than being a councillor and being out there so where I was coming from at that point in time was I see this transition as automatically paying for the A&P meetings, and there's an increase from 13 whatever to 16.50 for council and an increase for the mayor, that there be a deduction for those 4 meetings if they not be attended. That's where my opinion was, and I wasn't going to get into the weeds as to how much it should be, but I can throw a suggestion. $125 would be a nice round number, that if you missed them all, you'd be $500 short in your pay. You'd still be a councillor and get, I wouldn't be deducting for other small things. I just looked at those basic meetings, and we're now saying we're going to compensate for 2 that we weren't. And I think if you were to check back in the last year, there's a lot of those A&P meetings were missed. And I don't, as far as the vacation time and that sort of thing, again, I default to just those meetings. The person would still get paid if they took a whole month's vacation. The honorarium that's suggested here less the price for those meetings. And so they're still a councillor, they're still a mayor, whatever. They get some pay, but I think there should be a give up if you don't attend those 4 meetings. It's just, and that would still be pretty simple. You wouldn't be looking at all those other. Maybe I need to ask a reverse question. Of all the other municipalities that you studied, does everybody pay for all of the council meetings and the interim meetings, which are actually the business of council? Does everybody pay for all of those regardless whether you attend them or not?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Bates, I'll be honest, that wasn't clear in the research. It didn't really say if they got paid, whether they attended or not. That wasn't really super clear.
Yeah. Well, it's my opinion that those 4 meetings are the heart and soul of what we do. And that if you don't attend them, I would personally be more than, well, it's easy for me to say because I haven't missed any, but I personally would think it would be a consideration to give something up.
Yeah, so a couple of things for me, Director Vickers. I guess in the base honorarium, there's an increase, and I understand, include 2 more meetings, kind of the preparation time. We're as opposed to getting a half day, 4-hour pay for a 1-hour meeting. You know, probably some of that prep time for committee meetings is in that base as well. I'm not sure why the mayor's is going up more than council, to be honest with you. But I would say to that, having said that, Jay, on the per diem, I don't think the mayor, I guess I'll speak for myself or whoever happens to be sitting here, I don't think you should be paid to go give welcome remarks. I think that's the job of the person sitting in this chair. So I think that should be included in the base pay.
So Mayor Barkley, is that all special events would be included in the base pay?
Well, I think, you know.
Because this was the only one that was separated out. All the other special events where you're just attending because you're a council member is already included.
It's included, but I think like going out to Iwick, for example, I've been out a couple of times to give welcome remarks
Yes.
from the town of Innisfail. Like, you know, I may choose to stay, but I don't have to. But
Right.
that job took, you know, 20 minutes to write something and 5 minutes to deliver something. So I just think it should be included.
Okay.
And like I said, I think that's part of the role. And then under travel expenses, number 9, I am not in favor of providing daily meal allowances where there's no receipts. To me, there has to be
Yeah.
receipts.
Yeah, remember, I think the intent behind that is just if you happen to lose it.
Well, don't lose it.
I think so.
Okay, I'm being hardcore here, but you know, like other organizations, we're responsible for our taxpayers' money, and I don't think it's hard to keep receipts, and if you lose it, well, you lose it. So I think that the travel bit, I get that, I guess, and, you know, like Cape is kind of all over central Alberta. It can be here, it can be in Drumheller, it can be wherever, but, you know, I understand longer travel down to FCM and that kind of thing, and
So would it be appropriate just to have a flat per hour travel rate of $35 an hour for traveling? And then depending on where if it's just to Red Deer, 1 hour round trip, but if it's to Drumheller, it's 3, whatever it is, right?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, almost in central Alberta, I'm not sure that there should be, but, you know, I guess when you're getting $35 for the meeting instead of half a day now, that makes a
Right.
difference, right? So I will leave that up to the rest of council to have some discussion. So we'll move on to Councillor Dunham now.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just a couple of things to note. I agree with the daily meal allowances. For example, myself, I misplaced a receipt from when we were at 80 or there when I had dinner with Councillor Bates. That's my responsibility. I'm the one who put it somewhere and I couldn't find it. So do I deserve to be reimbursed for that? I don't feel so. So I agree with that. As well, I am comfortable with most of the recommendations put forth. I do think that the $35 per hour is a much more cost-effective way of remuneration for us, because I can tell you that I've been at meetings that were only half an hour long, maybe 45 minutes, and I don't think there was any reason to be paid. And at times I did bundle up meetings to reflect and to make up that half a day as opposed to being paid, you know, half a day for an hour. And as far as the deductions, as Councillor Bates mentioned, I'm in agreement with that. If somebody's away, I think there should be something deducted from it. Whether it's $125 or so on, I'm not gonna make a call on that one. I think that's, you know, some percentage could be figured out, but I'm comfortable with that as well. Other than that, you know, I look at sick leave. You know, I think sick leave is one thing and time away, vacation time is a completely other thing. I mean, sometimes we do not have a choice, obviously, when we have sick or surgery or other health issues. And, you know, I don't think it diminishes our role of what we're doing for the community if we are away with an illness at times, because when we come back, we obviously hit it back in stride and we do what we're supposed to do. So I don't know. I find a lot of the points down below that you found from other communities, I don't know if I'm comfortable with us implementing something like that, but I definitely agree with Councillor Bates that if a councillor is away for an extended period on vacation, that yes, there should be a deduction on wages. And that's where I sit, and I look forward to hearing what other councillors have to say.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. Anybody else? Councillor Heistad, I can't see your hand up. But
Yeah, no, I had it up and then the computer punches it down. No, the question that I have for, what confuses me with Councillor Bates, in his comments on being away is, we got half our council at one time were working and then the half were not, retired. So I'm not aligned with this, docking people that are away. I guess sick leave is one thing, but if you're away, I didn't see that as an issue the last couple of years as our council. I didn't see that. So, that's one thing that I'm kind of perplexed on. And I don't know if I'll, I thought we were moving forward with this one. Are we going to push this, are we going to agree to this today? Or is this something that we're going to work towards in the next month as to finalizing days off and sick leave and that? I thought we were there. And then when Councillor Bates said docking pay, I was kind of perplexed by that. So I'm asking a question to Councillor Bates and to council as to where are we going with this? Are we moving forward with it today or are we not?
don't know. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I'm not the one that's going to sit here and say we've got it done. My suggestion, I want to make sure it's clear, isn't that we would take all pay away, because I see us doing the other thing. I see us with what's been recommended. We were paid before for council meetings, whether we were here or not, but we weren't paid for AMPs if we weren't here. So, and that was clear and that was easy. I don't see why we should be paid for AMP. Let me reverse that and say leave the council meetings in even, but I don't see why we should be paid for AMPs if we're not here. I just don't see that. And you still get your base. Is that clear? I guess I'm asking Councillor Heistad.
Kind of, but the recommendation was a new base rate with paying for those AMPs. And I think, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, maybe you are, but I just see it as, there's a base pay. We're as a community, we're 50% with, other comparable communities, and I thought it was a win-win. And then when your comments about, us missing, people missing those AMPs, which actually really perplexed me, and actually I found it disappointing because I thought as a group, we've done a really good job being at majority of the meetings, and even with some of us who have dealt with some quite major health issues in the past 2 years. So, and as to docking that 125, per meeting, I just thought it was kind of chintzy, to be honest. I'm just going to be pretty up front with you guys. I think this is fair what the committee brought forward. And my last comment would be it would help this committee actually to know what we do on a daily basis, and having us come into the room for a couple hours in the future. That's how I see it. So, thanks.
Yeah, I think as far as the process goes, I mean, certainly administration was in the room with the committee, and it's not the first time that members of the committee have done this. But, I somewhat agree with Councillor Bates and with the AMP meetings. I mean, that there has been some absences, and like if you're not in the community for a couple of weeks and you're not participating, and, but all of a sudden we're raising things, well, $285 and $365. And what, is that fair? And I'm thinking of like we're here representing our community. So what is fair? And so I have to ensure in my mind that what we're doing is fair, and our staff is at a 50% tile in the region, and that's probably where we should be too. I don't think we should be at 70 and our staff is at 50. That wouldn't go very good, but so I'm just trying to justify the change, and is it going to make a big difference at the end of the day or at the end of every month? I would think if anything, it may reduce a bit just because of the per hour meeting as opposed to half day, full day meeting charge.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's just, so it's a matter of whether we keep the AMPs in or keep them out and then add a per meeting, like not 35 an hour, but you know, whether it's the same as it is now or what it is. So that's what I think we need to decide. And you know, the absences, I think what we can do is have a discussion at the end of a month when people pass in their timesheets and somebody's away for half a month and they say, hey, you know, what should I do about that? Then we can have that discussion. Because it's always going to be gray, right?
Yeah, so nothing added for absenteeisms. That'll be a discussion that council will do at the end of every month. What about the AMPs? So AMPs, do you want to?
Councillor Messaros?
Thanks. I was just going to weigh in on everything too. Yeah, I appreciate the discussion about the travel. I think that that's fair. I guess sick leave and vacation then gets wrapped up in the discussion about the deduction. I actually like your suggestion, Councillor Bates. I know for me, when there were, you know, some times that I've had to miss and I didn't feel right charging the entire amount, which in the end wasn't really fair to me because I'm still a councillor. So I feel like the suggestion that you've made kind of is the best of both worlds. And it's clear. And I know that there's a bit of a can of worms in a hornet's nest with some of the research that you've done, but I think that that's not a bad suggestion. And I think that I also kind of recall, like at the beginning, when someone was going to be away for a while, we tended to ask for, we tended to bring it to a vote, whether that would be a paid leave of absence or not. We brought it to council, but I don't recall that we've really done that lately, and I'm not sure if that just kind of went by the wayside, but I think this would also kind of take away the need for doing that. And I'm not going to argue about the if we lose a receipt, but in my organization we had the same policy. If you lose a receipt, there's a certain amount that you would get paid for it. Doesn't matter to me, just that's how we did it in our organization. So yeah, so I mean, I think that that's a fair, I thought that was a fair suggestion that Councillor Bates made on missing time. So that's my contribution.
Okay, Councillor Wing?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. I guess I'm more inclined to agree with the CAO on this one. I personally, I realize that there's a difference between a regular council meeting and an A&P meeting. I understand that from a legal perspective. In my opinion, doesn't matter what the heading of the meeting is. Those are both core pieces of business for council. I think this is a very committed group, and so it feels really, it just feels kind of interesting to be thinking that we're going to penalize somebody for missing an A&P meeting or missing a meeting, given all of the other things that our council is doing that are all listed in those core requirements. I do believe we need to address the travel rate as per the CAO's comments for sure. Yeah, and I feel like we're trying to pick a problem to deal with over this absenteeism, and I'm not sure that there's something there that we need to solve. If there's an unusual situation that arises requiring a long-term absenteeism, then I think council can deal with it, but I don't think it's reasonable to be so arbitrary and say, you know, if you're not here on the third Monday of the month, you're getting penalized because there's all those other pieces of business that councillors are involved with. So that's just my thoughts anyways, but definitely support travel time. Yeah, that's all I have for it.
Yeah, I think with the A&P, it also gives people an opportunity when the pay is optional to take vacation and not feel guilty about it as well. So you're not saying, well, gee, I can book my vacation between this Tuesday and that following 2-week weekend or something, and you're not getting paid for A&P, so you're not really worried about it. But if you are, I think I don't know, it would be different for sure. And, you know, it's one thing to miss one, but it's another thing if somebody's missing 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know, and it's not just about us, it's about going forward as well, so. So what if the thoughts were around Councillor Bates and we went back to that base rate that we're on and added like an A&P?
A specific A&P rate, and then
Yes.
and then a flat $35 an hour rate for all other
Yeah,
other events.
An A&P, like say 125 or something, like you said, and that, you know, would certainly, yeah, I know you picked it out of the air a little bit, but you know, that would probably cover preparation time. I mean, A&Ps are not typically long meetings, might be a couple of hours at the most.
So base rate back to the same that you're at right now. A&P is at 125 per meeting.
Try it. And you can take this back and bring it back to us again, Director Vickers?
Absolutely,
It's
yep.
up to council whether they want to put this through
Yep,
today
yep.
or bring it back.
So A&P could be at 125, and then all the other per diems are at the 35-hour rate,
Yeah. including
including travel time. That would also include travel time,
Yeah.
would be at that $35 an hour rate. We would remove out the 4J,
Take J out.
or move that up into the base honorarium. That's the special events where you're acting on behalf of the town. And then we could remove 9 with the receipts, just to clean that up, right, if that's easy. Is that kind of, and then if you're there for an A&P, you still have to charge for it specifically, but then all the other per diems would fall under that per diem $35 an hour rate.
So we'll see what everybody thinks about that. Councillor Bates?
I can live with that. And all the other stuff that I didn't comment on, I agreed with, so. No, that works.
Councillor Messaros?
Yeah, I mean, that works for me too. I thought one of the reasons that we kind of wanted to roll everything together was just to streamline the processes a little bit though as well, and to make it, it's what we discussed when we discussed it last time. That was one of the questions that I had, and I thought that was one of the reasons that we were doing that.
Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I just have one question to ask is, are we creating a moose for the table here when we're talking about this? Has it been a problem in the past? You know, I've sat at pretty much every meeting in the 2 years and a little bit that I've been here, and there hasn't been a lot of vacancies around the table. So are we creating something here that really we don't need to create? It seems to be working. You know, I agree that there are circumstances, A&P, council committee meetings, people get sick. There's issues around health. We've seen that over the last couple of years here. Are we going to deduct that person or people because, well, you know, I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks? Like, I just think we may be creating something here that doesn't need to be created. I think it's working well. Correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you.
Okay, I'll correct you. You know, I think we started this process because we need better clarification. So I'll give you an example. End of the month, you get 2 different timesheets. One person, 2 people have been away the same amount of time, a couple of weeks. One person will deduct their pay by 50%. The other one is still charging the full amount. So there's no policy right now. It's completely gray, and it's a judgment call. So we're not talking about illness. That's a whole different thing. We're talking about more so, I think, you know, people are more than entitled to go on vacation. Of course they are. But, you know, AMP is different than a regular council meeting. And I think before, the reason it got separated, I understood at one time, and maybe I'm wrong, is that there was absences at AMP. So take those out, charge for them. And I mean, it's basically coming out to the same amount anyway. So I think it's more for clarification, Councillor Harrison, and I think it makes the policy more clear.
Then I would suggest that we put something in here around illness or sick leave or whatever, because that is going to come up. 4 years is a long term, and people do get sick in 4 years. So I don't see that in here. I didn't hear that in Councillor Bates's rationale. So I think we need to just to firm that up and to clear it up. And I agree with you, Mayor Barkley, that I think I was one of the ones that asked for clarification, because I run into that every pay period, that, you know, like, there's a lot of NCs, no charges on my time certificate, because I don't know where to put it, right? And a lot of it is under the per diem, so just more comments than anything. Thank you.
Councillor Bates?
Yeah, just hoping clarifying stuff. Nothing that I was suggesting had anything to do with sick leave. And I think there's even an MGA requirement at some point that you get council approval to miss X number of council meetings, I believe they are in a row. I can't even remember all the, and the latest summary that the mayor just gave more or less puts us right where we are. So we're not changing any, we're not creating anything. And the mayor probably has more appreciation than most of us when she's looking at approving 6 other timesheets that, yeah. So no connection to sick leave. I guess where I hear it kind of heading is that we still charge for A&Ps and lower that base rate slightly to make that work. That's, I think, what I'm hearing. And that's the part that I said I was good with, that when she just asked about going around the table.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would just
Councillor Wing?
echo, I think going further down into the document and looking at the policy, I think we've got good definition as far as what council activities are. That should be helpful, not only for the mayor to approve, but for the rest of us for submitting, right? And then the adding in the travel and the understanding about how that works will really make the policy that much clearer as well. Yeah, and I agree. I think sick time is one thing, and if we're, I mean, we also have 3 months a year typically where we have 5 Mondays, and so we would have an opportunity for people to be able to book holidays around those Mondays as well. And then if vacation time happens with A&P, then we don't get paid, and I would be fine with that.
Okay, thank you. So Director Vickers, do you want to bring it back, or do you want us to approve today? Or Councillor Heistad, do you have your hand up, or just no? No.
So,
No, okay.
so let's just recap what I'm hearing. So the base rate would stay the same, so that's $28.35 for the mayor, $13.65 for councillors. The AMP, do you want it to stay the same, or do you want it to be $125? Well, really, a half-day meeting would be 110, so 125 wouldn't be that far off. And that way it's a nice clean number too.
Councillor Bates?
Well, and I didn't,
Just picked it up.
it kind of evolved there. I won't argue with the new base rates that they've created, so if you want to subtract something from that,
If we subtract.
whatever that number
250,
is, and then your base rate is your base rate, and you have to charge for your AMPs, whatever those are.
Let's say we subtract 250 from both of those numbers. That's 2 A&P meetings at $125 each. So if you do attend both meetings, you're still essentially receiving the amount that the committee
Sure.
recommended. Okay? Moving 4J up into the base honorarium away from the per diems, removing section 9, and adding in under the per diem section a travel, like just your hours for traveling. So that would be calculated at the $35 an hour rate. If you guys are confident with that, then we can pass it right now.
You're taking J out?
Yeah, 4J, well, it'll be taken out and moved up into the base
Yeah.
honorarium amount, right? Yes.
And then receipts.
That's section 9, yeah, that
Okay.
will be removed altogether.
Okay. Okay,
So if you'd like to pass that amended policy, and then we can get it figured out and get it to you guys for sure.
okay. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move that we accept the amended version as Director Vickers just stated it.
Okay, any further questions, discussion? All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Then we'll go on to,
Mayor Barkley,
I'm sorry.
I do have a second motion to repeal the
Oh,
old policy.
yeah, sorry.
And I would make that motion, Mayor Barkley, that council repeal policy 2021-004, council remuneration policy.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. I had one quick question, it's too late now, but with respect to COLA, like, I wouldn't want that starting in 2024, because we've just approved a bit of a bump up here.
Okay. We can word it into the policy
Okay.
that, or, no, I guess we can't, it's already approved, no. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move now on to 5.4, rates and fees bylaw.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So we are providing council with a new bylaw, 1718-2023, that will amend our current rates and fees bylaw. So these changes are specifically what just got passed in budget. So the water and wastewater rates that were just approved in the 2024 budget, as well as the cemetery fee annual increase as per the bylaw of 1% each year was in there. The one item that we did add to this that we did want to add in is the removal of costs associated with any volunteer criminal record checks, and all that we would be asking in requirement is just a letter from that volunteer organization. So right now, it's either $5 or $10, depending if you require fingerprints or not. So we would just like to waive those fees altogether, and just requiring a letter from that volunteer organization. But I do have a list of everything that was updated. Like I said, all the cemetery fees went up by 1%, and just the handful of utility updates.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make the first recommended motion? Councillor Messaros?
Sure. Move that council accepts and gives 1718-2023 rates and fees bylaw first reading.
Okay, any questions about anything? We've gone through this. No, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. And please have someone make the second motion. Councillor Bates?
Mayor Barkley.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who said that? Councillor Dunham?
I'd be happy to make the second motion, Mayor Barkley, that council accepts and gives 1718-2023 rates and fees bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then the next motion gives consideration for third reading. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I so move that council gives consideration for 1718-2023 rates and fees bylaw third reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. And then the last reading, please. Councillor Bates.
I'll move that we give 1718-2023 third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. And then we'll go into 5.5, in the continuing Director Vickers show today.
Yes, thank you. Last one. So just as part of our ongoing bylaw and policy review, the attached council policies have been identified as outdated or obsolete. So we are just looking for a formal resolution of council to repeal the 8 policies that are attached here. But just one motion, so just one motion this time, so.
Do we have to read all those
I
bullet points?
don't know if you have to read the entire motion or if you can just,
CEO Becker?
CAO Becker?
No, you don't need to read it, Mayor Barkley, just as per the recommended motion.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Councillor Wing?
I would move that council approve repealing the list of outdated and obsolete policies as presented in the agenda.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, carried. Then we'll move into correspondence and information. After we get through all the rescinded policies. There we go. So we'll have, letter there with respect to the emergency storage pond. Talk a little bit more about that in the roundtable. Just have somebody make a motion, please, that we accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I so move.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about any of the correspondence? All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll get into council reports, and we'll begin with Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So last Monday evening, the Innisfil Library Board and Friends of the Innisfil Library served their annual potluck dinner to all staff and library volunteers. That was a lovely event and lots of good fellowship at that event. On December the 6th, so last Wednesday, I began my virtual subdevelopment appeal board training. However, I was called away for a family emergency that morning at around 11 o'clock, so I have received notification that I have been enrolled for training in February. My penalty for missing a one-day training session is I get to go to 4 half-day training sessions now. Anyways, but I will not be able to participate if any appeal processes arise until I've completed that training. So just so to be fully transparent about that. On Friday, we thoroughly enjoyed the holiday train. Loved the support that the community gave it. The snow touch, thanks to Director Kennedy and his pals got the snow falling. It was good. And the town Christmas party late in the afternoon made it for a lovely day. I will be attending the Mountain View Regional Water Services Commission meeting and facility tour on Wednesday as an alternate with Councillor Bates. Thursday morning, I have Parkland Regional Library Executive Committee meeting in Lacombe. Thursday afternoon, Emergency Advisory Committee meeting, and I am planning on attending the Tagish Christmas lunch on Friday. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bates.
Okay, so last Monday I participated, as did Councillor Wing and others, with the CAO evaluation discussion prior to our AMP meeting. MPC, there were 3 approvals as per the document that was in correspondence, 3 approvals. The Municipal Development, MDP, there was a progress report. We did review the short form survey results. It's still kind of obscure what the long form results are going to be and even how many there are. I was kind of hoping to get more there, but that's still pending. I did attend the SRD Waste Commission in Olds with the mayor as her alternate, and I'll let her report on that because I was just a sponge. I wasn't participating a whole lot, but it was a very interesting, and we do have some potential discussion coming up. I attended the holiday train. It was very well done and on time. yeah, and the town social and awards event on Friday. Upcoming, I have the Mountain View Water Commission meeting, and Councillor Wing is going to attend as well, and we're both going to end up with a tour of the plant. This week, also the Johns Manville Christmas dinner that we've been invited to, and I've never been to it before, but it's my understanding it's a dual thing in that it's to help people that maybe are having difficulty having a dinner, but it's also a fundraiser, so it's everybody's welcome. And the police and safe community meeting is also this week. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to council. I had one committee meeting last week, December 7th, and it was the Parkland Foundation meeting as the alternate. Councillor Dunham couldn't attend, so I attended it in his stead. We had the organizational meeting. Not much has changed at the foundation. We had our elections of officers. Connie Hoosman was still chair. Sandra Gamba, councillor from Bowden, is vice chair, and the rest of the folks and councillors are there as directors. One of the things that came up that was tabled was the discussion around the vacant about 2.5 acres of land that are up at Autumn Grove. And one of the things that the government's come back with to the foundation about is they want a business case for that. So we have submitted on behalf of the town our housing needs assessments. That goes back about, I know Director Jenkins, about 2 months ago. Our foundation's reviewed it. The county's going to submit their housing assessment. So that's going to be the start. So you'll see in our budget, we've budgeted $30,000 for that, an outside consultant to help us write that business case. I think it's very important that we get this one right because it's going to set the tone for going forth. So it's in the works. So stay tuned, and it'll be up to Councillor Dunham to carry that ball forward. Other than that, we had a great. They make great scones at Autumn Grove and tea. So we had our regular tea, and the meeting was adjourned. So it's about all. And this week, I'll be attending tomorrow the seniors luncheon and the Johns Mansfield dinner on Wednesday evening. So looking forward to this week. Thank you.
Thank you. So question, Councillor Harrison, so a $30,000 fee for a consultant to do a business case for a new build, or for Parkland to get the land back from the government?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. It's going to be a new build. That's for sure.
Okay.
So, I think both go hand in hand. We can't do anything because it's not our land.
But that land belongs to Parkland Foundation?
Not according to that.
Well, when the new building was built, it was subdivided, and the government took over all the land in order to do the new building because it was paid for 100% by the government, and post-construction and opening, the balance of that land that's now sitting vacant was to be transferred back to Parkland Foundation?
That hasn't been done.
Okay.
So that'll be a question that we'll need to take back to Bethany and the consultant, is how we get title back on that land. And then as a result of that, it'll be a new build of some sort.
That would be great.
So it's in the works. I know it's been a long time coming, but it's starting to move at a snail's pace forward. We'll see where it ends up.
And Councillor Messaros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, I also attended the Christmas staff party last week. That was a lot of fun. It was fun to get out on the skates. And then most of my committee work last week was with the chamber. And just to reiterate, Jan Chabot has submitted her resignation effective the 14th of this month. Work is underway to determine the scope of what's required in that position. And there's a chamber event on tomorrow night at Darkwoods for members and anybody else, potential members. So hoping to see some businesses out there, and we've got the chamber board meeting one a little bit early next, so it's Thursday night instead of the following week. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Heistad?
It's this damn computer. Holiday train last week, town Christmas party, which was it was a really neat spin on how to, get everybody together. I really appreciated that. On the Thursday, I had the historical village, talked about budget with them, where things were at, as well as I want to thank Megan for working with the committee as to getting ready for the January event. And then I'm probably just gonna do a drive-by at the Manville events coming up this week. So just say hello to some friends there, and then policing committee meeting on the Thursday. So thank you. That's it.
Right, thank you. And Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I have been away and will be away until next week. I do want to thank Councillor Harrison for attending the Parkland Foundation and look forward to the next meeting with them. And I look forward to being back next week.
Thank you. Enjoy. So last week, thanks to everybody who participated in everybody did the CEO evaluation. I thought that went really well. Councillor Bates mentioned, had MPC last week. I also attended the Innisfail High School Spaghetti Supper at the Legion, and then the Innisfail Middle School Mustang Turkey Dinner. I helped serve the meal. I also ate. And dropped in to see Don Shigera with an 85th birthday certificate last week. It was great to see. He's doing well. SRD meeting in Olds. Just get into that a little bit now, I guess. So the organizational meeting, Chair Angela Elbers will continue. She's at Riva Mountain View County, and Tyrone Mueller is the vice chair. He's a councillor at Penhold. We no longer have any operations and technical committee or environment and safety committee. Kind of felt that was kind of digging into operations too much, and we feel that's more the CEO's job and his operations people to bring that up through the board. The Town of Old, CEO Brent Williams spoke to the board to request Water for Life grant that SRD has of $6.8 million to be transferred to Olds. If that was allowed by the Government of Alberta, and that was to support their I&I maintenance. Olds has experienced 5 pretty major flood events over the past 2 summers related to high rainfall events, but also to their problems with their I&I. The Water for Life grant was obtained by the Wastewater Commission to build a pipeline to the existing lagoon in Olds as per the original design. That cost is somewhere between $8 and $10 million. The funding is split between the Alberta government, SRD, and there's also the emergency storage ponds. So we touched on that again. Originally in the design, there was to be a storage pond built at every major lift station, but it was deferred by the province because there was budget overruns on building out the line in the first place. The Wastewater Commission has secured $1.3 million of funding through the Canada Infrastructure Program for ponds in Bowden and Innisfail. That's 40% federal funding, 50% provincial, and 10% commission. The Bowden project was completed in Q1 of 2021. Innisfail has been put on hold. The estimate for the Innisfail pond was originally $650,000, but the tender came in at 1.3. So the Olds and Innisfail storage facilities have been put on hold for 2024, and for further discussions to come about from there. Yeah, I think there's a letter in our correspondence today that, of course, CEO Becker has seen, and I think, did you want to have a motion today for
Yeah, maybe we
directing
could
you
go back to that letter.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Mayor Barkley, just
Yeah.
see the council's, maybe there's some comments, but
Yeah.
I certainly anticipated some discussion regarding the letter
Yes.
request.
somewhere in there.
Right-
Oh,
right
there it is. Yeah. Yeah, so CEO Beck and I were speaking about this prior to the meeting today and the path forward. So I think what we need to do is direct administration to come back with a report on the industrial land and the emergency storage pond and how that has all come about. And
Yeah.
give some background.
Yeah, to Mayor Barkley's comments, so the letter is indicating the SRD is asking council for input on the pond, emergency storage pond, which is slated to be in the new industrial subdivision. There's a lot of workings that occurred with previous council to negotiate a long-term lease of land. Yeah, in the southwest area of the industrial park. So there's some history, and in talking to Mayor Barkley prior to the meeting, I thought a good action would be to have administration, from our perspective, provide some of that detail, that history, just to get you up to speed on from our perspective, the history of the pond. It may drive additional action or information you require to move into ask or responding to this question. Right now, I'd recommend do not respond to the question. Should we have one? Shouldn't we have one? Is gather as much information as you can on the pond prior to moving into responding to that letter. So the direction I would recommend to you, council, would be something like to direct administration to bring back a report outlining the history of the Innisfil Emergency Storage Pond.
Okay, I will make that motion. Councillor Wing?
Yeah, I wonder though if in addition to the history of the pond, a bit of a risk assessment that that informs us as far as saying, if we don't, this is what might happen, but if we do, this is what might not happen. I think the history is good, but yeah, I'd just like to know a little bit more about what the potential risks might be if we decide not to.
Yeah, I think, well, we had that discussion today too, and I think that needs, I think CEO Becker feels that needs to come from the commission. Like the commission needs to assess the risk, not so much the town of Innisfil, because they have the data. So I think this is kind of step one of maybe getting there, and then,
Yeah,
correct?
to support your comments, Mayor Barkley, that is the question, is what's the bigger picture for the whole system? What if we have the pond, and what if we don't have the pond, and what's that risk to SRD? What is the risk of not having the pond to the town of Innisfil? I think all that, and Steve's better suited to respond, but to answer your question, that'd be the same question I would have, was what is that risk profile associated with or without that pond? Councillor, or sorry, Director Kennedy, do you have any comments in relation, or?
No, that's, yeah, everything I think we can cover. It will be bringing back a lot of history, is probably important for a lot of the council members that weren't involved. And then just getting an understanding from the commission as to what their risk profile is to us. Because I know that was a lot of the heated conversation we had with them in regards to the leasing of the land. So it'd be good to get their input.
Yeah, I would also add, just with that conversation, the supply services agreements are also being reviewed, and so it will clarify what the municipality is responsible for when there is flooding and whatnot. So if the system can take 300 liters per second, but the inflow is like 800, then that's probably an I&I problem potentially in the community. And so I know some, with the issues in Olds, that has come up, and it's not really clear in the agreement. So that cost did go on to Olds to basically clean things up. So, but it's also, are you spending $100,000 to clean up, or are you spending $7 million for a pipeline? So anyway, time. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Wing that, and I think we're all probably there, that we do need that risk, and then maybe some just comments as to the two scenarios. If we did overflow to a pond, or if we overflow to the natural water course, how do you clean it up? Either one, and you know, odor and everything else, like it, the two ways that neither one you want to ever do, but details of what you do with it.
Okay, so we have a motion. All in favor? Okay, carried. Have we lost Councillor Heistad?
No, I'm in favor. I put my thumb up.
Your camera's off. That's why we
Yeah,
didn't see you.
I'm in
Okay.
favor.
Okay.
Thanks.
And, yeah, so I think that's all from the wastewater. Come February, we do have a strategic planning session, and so all municipalities, member municipalities are going to be invited to that, as in our COs and Director of Operations to come in and speak to these issues, and I think that'll be a great opportunity because I understand that the information isn't necessarily flowing from the administration of the commission into the administration of our organization. So I think it'll be a great chance for everybody to get around the table and talk about all these ponds and everything else and just the system itself. And anyway, carrying on, I was at the holiday train on Friday and also the town Christmas party Friday afternoon. That was a lot of fun. So we will now go into open mic session. Does anybody have anything to say today who are in the gallery? Welcome, Doug Boss.
Doug needs to speak into the mic. I can't hear him.
You'd probably hear if you were here, Jason, sorry.
Yeah, I
Just teasing, Jason.
Gotta lay on a bed.
So yes, the seniors are very ecstatic about it. We appreciate that you allowed the opportunity for them to get here. We offered free admission to all the senior lodges in central Alberta, not just Innisfail. And a few of them been able to take advantage of it, but a lot of them struggled with transportation to get here. So again, I'd like to thank you very much for allowing our seniors to make it out to see the lights. And I passed everybody tickets. If you could sign your name on the back of them, I'd appreciate it. That way I can track if you come or not. Thank you very much.
No, and thank you, Doug, for all that you're doing out there and doing this light display. I know it brings a lot of people into the community, and it's great to see, so thanks. Ron?
Thank you, Mayor Jean. Just a question. Municipal Planning Commission, is it at 10 a.m. back to administration, just for clarification? Supposed to be 3? Thank you. And one other comment about the council remuneration. I've sat on the last 2 committees over the last 4 years. I completely agree. If I'm on that committee again, or whoever is, I think it'd be very useful for us to have a short meeting with the existing council before we start to clarify some of the issues that came up today. I think that'd be a very useful tool in future when this happens again in 2 years. So we have some more ideas as to the sick, missing meetings and that sort of thing, and then we can have our discussion. Thank you.
You have to be independent. Okay, thank you. And we'll go into upcoming events. And just have a motion, please, to accept these as information. Councillor Bates?
Sure, I'll make that motion with the amendment to the MPC being at 3 p.m. as.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried.
Aye.
And then we'll have a motion to go in camera, please.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you. All in favor?